focused on, and we feel confident in that. Jordan?
Thanks, Sarah. I actually want to ask about UFOs. Several media reports this week disclosed that... Sorry. It's UFOs.
I was going to say, I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. I feel like I already want to pass on this question, given that you've got aliens sitting among you.
Several media reports disclosed the existence of a secret Pentagon program that was researching UFOs, funding right now for that in 2012. Does the president believe in the existence of UFOs, and would he be interested in restoring funding for that program?
Somehow that question hasn't come up in our back and forth over the last couple days, but I will check into that and be happy to circle back. Jennifer?
The three that were turned down, it's our understanding that they had close ties to the White House. So you're going to try to change the vetting process, and then finally on the one on UFOs.
Let me start and do one at a time, because I'm not going to remember all of those questions. If we have to, we'll see if we can get to all of that.
Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. So the clips that you just saw came from a White House press briefing earlier today, where Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is the White House press secretary, was asked numerous times from reporters about this recent story, this story that is now blowing up through all of the national media, something that we've been reporting on all month now, which is this recent revelation of the Pentagon's secret UFO hunting program. And if you guys haven't seen that, our last video we posted about this after a new UFO clip was released online by the government that was captured back in 2004 by a couple of jets who were scrambled and were following this unidentified object that seemed to be making moves and maneuvers that pretty much, in their words, defied gravity or defied anything that we've ever seen before. And we posted a video on that a couple of days ago. We also went into the fact that the Pentagon admitted that for 5 years they operated a secret program to investigate unidentified flying objects in our skies. Now, the Pentagon has stated that they closed this program down years ago. However, others who worked inside the Pentagon say that it has continued operating, which is obviously not out of the realm of possibility. How many times in the past have the powers that be claimed that they shut something down and we find out that it ran for years later? For instance, Project MK Ultra, which was the CIA mind control program that went on for years under the noses of the public, and very well may likely be continuing today. And so now that the mainstream news has picked up on this, finally, we'll just say, but when can you depend on the mainstream news to do anything? And as you're seeing here, reporters are asking questions. It's all a big joke. You know, there's no seriousness at all in the demeanor of these reporters as they ask the question. There's no seriousness in Huckabee's voice when she answers these questions, or should I say doesn't answer, more like sidesteps, which is common. It's a common tactic that has been extremely successful and widely used whenever the subject of UFOs or aliens is brought up. Make a mockery of it, make a joke out of it, sidestep the question, and say that you will look into it. And that's exactly what we see happened here. Now, it should also be noted that something strange happened when one of the reporters actually asked, or tried to ask, this question about UFOs. As you guys may have noticed, as The Hill's Jordan Fabian began to say, quote, "I actually want to ask about UFOs," suddenly you'll see that his phone goes off, and you can see sort of this weirded out look on both Sanders as well as the journalist's face as the reporter's Siri function on his phone started malfunctioning as soon as the topic of UFOs came up. So, you know, make of what you will about that. And obviously, immediately after, Sanders joked, saying, quote, "I don't know if that's a coincidence or not." So obviously, this should tell you guys that the media is not serious about this topic. Despite how many articles they publish about this Pentagon stuff, this should show all of you that if you're looking to leave it up to the mainstream media to marshal in disclosure, well, you're going to be in for a long wait. Now, relating to this story, and we spoke about this guy in our recent video, but the gentleman who operated or headed up this secret Pentagon program to hunt UFOs is a guy by the name of Luis Elizondo, and he was the real deal. He's a former Pentagon official. He led the AATIP program, or in other words, the DoD's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And he resigned not that long ago, citing infighting within the program, as well as funding issues. And he has recently come out and stated that, quote, "My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone." And he said this in an interview on CNN's Eric Burnett Out Front.
These aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory, nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of. I can't speak on behalf of the government. Obviously, I'm not in the U.S. government anymore. My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
Elizondo resigned from the Department of Defense in October in protest over what he called excessive secrecy surrounding the program and internal opposition to it after funding for the effort ended in 2012. He said Monday that he could not speak on behalf of the government, but he strongly implied that there was evidence that stopped him from ruling out the possibility that alien aircraft visited the Earth. The former Pentagon official stated that they had identified countless anomalous aircraft that were, quote, seemingly defying the laws of aerodynamics. Things that don't have any obvious flight surfaces, any obvious forms of propulsion, and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability beyond, I would submit, the healthy G-forces of a human or anything biological. So, in other words, what he's saying here is that they witnessed and studied and captured aircraft that were doing maneuvers that a human person, or any sort of biological entity for that matter, would not be able to handle. Okay, when you're up flying in a jet doing strong maneuvers in corners, you are hit with extreme G-forces, forces of gravity. And according to these reports, these UFOs were exhibiting things that defied these G-forces, that defied gravity itself. And so if humans were not in them, if no biological entity were in them, well, what's in them? Or could there have been biological entities in there, but they were just unaffected? Because, you know, many of these UFOs are said to be in sort of a bubble, a gravity bubble, if you will, so that they can start and stop on a dime and be unaffected by G-forces or gravity from the planet. And so in our last video, we also spoke about Mr. Tom DeLonge, who has sort of jumped on the bandwagon, speaking about this release from the Pentagon about this secret program, also talking about this new piece of UFO footage. And the jury is still out about Tom DeLonge and whether this whole revelation about this secret Pentagon program, as well as this UFO footage, if it's legitimate or if it's just some sort of disinformation campaign to make us think that they're actually revealing something here, but that they're not. And I haven't been the only outspoken person about this. Recently, Dr. Stephen Greer, who we had on the channel, we did an interview with, posted some things on Twitter that kind of give us an idea of how he feels, with one post indicating that the recent New York Times story about this Pentagon revelation was nothing than a clear ramp-up to what he calls fake disclosure that is designed to prepare people for an outer space threat, and so that apparently we are all then frightened of what could be out there. In another post, he spoke about his own film, Unacknowledged, which recently came out, and how it has been blocked by the media with no coverage, despite it being 2017's #1 documentary on iTunes and extremely popular on Netflix. And so obviously, we're kind of getting the idea here that Dr. Greer is not a fan of Mr. DeLonge or what's being said in the mainstream, and that he believes this is a lead-up to some sort of false invasion or space threat. And so I have reached out to Dr. Greer in hopes of getting him back on the channel to do an interview so we can get a more clear take from him on what he feels is going on, his stance on all of this Pentagon stuff, the UFO footage, Mr. DeLong, everything that's going on, and hopefully he will respond soon. I'll have an update to that. So let me know what you guys think down below. Strange times indeed. Many of you called it when you spoke about how the Pentagon is suddenly releasing UFO footage and admitting to things. It's just not something they do. So I'd love to hear your take on it. Put it down below. Email me if you have any new info or something you'd like me to touch on in a future video. My contact info is down below, and I will see you all back in just a bit. Stay safe, guys.